The Dakota Native American tribes in South Dakota and Montana seem like a world away from Presbyterians in Chicago. But through the Presbytery of Chicago's Dakota Partnership, adults and youth have developed powerful, long-lasting connections. To learn more, let's welcome Dan Pucci, Managing Director of the Dakota Partnership for the Presbytery of Chicago. And we also welcome Erin Kohler, a high school freshman from Knox Presbyterian Church in Naperville, who has been going on mission trips to South Dakota since she was a little girl. And we welcome Abby Simon, a high school sophomore from First Presbyterian Church in Glen Ellen, who has also been going on mission trips for many years. Welcome to all three of you. Dan, tell us how this partnership started between the Presbytery of Chicago and the Dakota people.
It was a mission that started in the early 90s, and originally it was a gift to our pastor, Ken Lehman, who was the first pastor of Knox Presbyterian Church in Naperville.
Okay.
It started out with just a few people, a vacation Bible school in Montana and then Sisseton, and since that time it's grown into a very vibrant program that includes a VBS program, building different homes and helping with improving the churches on the reservations. Also, Christmas gift programs during the holiday season, and a back to school program during the time around September when the kids are going back to school. I remember my first days when I first went to Sisseton. My connections were with a little girl, 7 years old, that had a mother who was dying of cancer. And since that time, her mother has passed away, and she's been supported by her loving grandmother. And it's a different family makeup on the reservation, but the love and support is there.
How about you two? What got you started going to mission trips? It sounds like you both started pretty young.
I started in 6th grade. We heard about it as a family at First Pres in Glen Ellen, and it just kind of sparked our interest. We've had friends who'd gone on it before, but we'd never really gone on a mission trip as a family. And so we went and we just loved it. It was a great experience getting to know all these new people, and it's just a great learning experience. Like, you get out of your comfort zone. It's not what you see in Chicago or in the suburbs. It's completely different, and they're so grateful. And so we've just gone back since.
So you go with your family. That's terrific. And how about you?
Well, I started going when I was 3, and I think my parents just wanted to teach us something and expose us to something different than what we were used to, and they thought that going on this mission trip would be a really good way to do that. And
since you were 3, these people must be like part of the family for you.
Yeah, they are.
That's wonderful. What kinds of things do young people do?
When I go to Fort Peck Indian Reservation in Montana, the women and the children tend to do more vacation Bible school.
Okay.
And so we have quite a few young children coming from, we have babies sometimes who are with their siblings up to people who are 20 who end up, they've gone their whole life, so they want to help now. So it's a great experience. And then there's a lot of the guys who go and they help with the building of churches, like helping fix them up, and there's young boys who go to do that because they want to be with all the guys, and so there's something for every age.
Dan, these are Christian congregations on these reservations?
Yes, within the reservation there are many what would be little country churches.
Okay.
So what you'd think of in an old movie, a wood frame white church with a white steeple. There's many of those throughout the reservation, and the neighborhoods within the reservation are fairly far apart, 10, 15 miles apart. And each one of those neighborhoods, most of them have their own church. And most of these churches are family churches. So there's churches that a few families have gone to over the years, and many of them are still operating, but some of them are more just a sacred ground for these people. Most of them have an operating cemetery, people still being buried there today. In fact, lots of the work that we do when we go is to maintain those grounds.
Okay.
So recently we've put fencing around the cemeteries and cleaned up the grounds, so the wild horses and cattle can't just go right through the cemetery.
Is there anything that surprised you on your first trips?
Going out there, what kind of surprised me was there was a lot of little kids just kind of like roaming around in the streets of like the little towns, and that's not something you really see like I see in Glen Ellen all the time.
No.
And so there's like little 2-year-olds with their like 6-year-old siblings who are watching them all day, and it really surprised me, and it kind of hit me that like that's their support system a lot, is like they have grandparents that are at their house caring for them, but they can't be running around chasing them the whole day. And so that kind of shocked me that that's what they have to do from a young age. They're caring for another person when we were just caring for ourselves.
Okay, so a different level of independence and responsibility.
Yes.
It really shocked me how the kids, they just like latched right onto you. Like you just met them and they already were like attached to you. That was just really surprising that they were just so open to you.
I think of nature and the land as being a part of what Native American spirituality is about. Did you have any experiences of that in worship services?
One of the things that we do when we the first Sunday that we're there, we have a ministry with the churches on the reservation, different locations on the reservation. And their whole way of worshiping is much different than here in Chicago. In some of the churches, it's much more open and vocal, praising the Lord and really showing their emotions around their religion. In other ways, it's very traditional. So traditional Dakota hymns and Dakota language that's being used during the services. And again, the beauty. There's one particular church in Sisseton, Buffalo Lakes, which is right out of a postcard. It's a beautiful landscape with the cemetery up on the hill, and behind the church is a beautiful Buffalo Lakes with wild pelicans that are flying into land.
Oh, wow.
And it's a really beautiful setting. So, you know, they do really cherish their outdoors and the beauty of the outdoors, and that's part of their culture.
That sounds lovely. What do you think has changed in you for having these experiences when you come back to Chicago? Do you think you're any different after going on these trips?
Well, I feel like I've kind of learned to like, accept like things and like be more grateful for things, because there's kids there that don't have a ton, but like Aaron said, they latch onto you right away and they cherish those relationships with you, and you do a little thing for them and they love it, and they always want to run over to you and they see you every day, and it just makes you realize like that you don't need to have a ton of material things to be happy. Like these people don't have a lot, but they're some of the most joyful people I've ever met, and they're always smiling. And there's like a little girl who I've known the first year I went, she was very little, and now she's second grade, and it's so crazy like to have these connections with these people that are so different, but they're so alike you in the same way.
Mm-hmm. Anything you'd add, Erin?
I just think it's like, it really helped me understand how truly blessed I am to like live where I live, and to have the parents who support you, and just to have like people care about you and to know that.
What do you think helps people to be less guarded maybe? And it sounds like you're describing people being more open and friendly.
I think when you have less to worry about your materials and like how wealthy you are, you really focus more on people and your relationships with them.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that, because it's just they're so open, because that's like their culture. They welcomed us they want us to come every night for dinner, and they just really cherish those relationships because they don't have all the material stuff, and that's kind of what brings them joy, is they know that it's the relationships that are important, and God's love that's important, and that they have that, and so they cherish that and try to bring us into that, which is great.
Yeah, it makes me kind of want to go. Dan, what are your hopes for the partnership between the Presbytery of Chicago and the Dakota people?
It's a relational mission today, and I think our hopes as a partnership is for that to grow over the years. Today we have 5 Presbyterian churches here in the Chicago area that are part of the partnership, and we'd love to see that expand to more churches, and we're welcoming that as we speak. We also have a couple non-Presbyterian groups that are part of the mission.
Okay.
One in particular is the Young Men's Educational Network here in Chicago from North Lawndale. And this is quite an amazing connection that we have with that group and the Native Americans.
Thank you, Dan and Erin and Abby, for being here and sharing your stories with us today. I am Polly Toner for Different Drummers and the Greater Chicago Broadcast Ministries. Keep the faith.